Before I continue on with the flow from the last video, let me just mention that there's two important things that we need to take care of, and we will. That is that these items here in the attributes panel should be set to overprint fill. Actually, this one's not so important, but this one where there's actually ink underneath it, we would set that to overprint fill. Anything that has a fill on it, where again, if they turn it off in their software program, we don't want like a glaring white thing to show up. So we set it to overprint, meaning that this ink would get printed. If this ink were to print, it would print over the top of it. The second thing we need to take care of, coincidentally, is a lot of glues do not like to be put over the top of ink. So that's another thing that we'll take care of. But continuing on from the last video, we had just made temporarily put a stroke on here, set it to twice the size of the bleed, which in our case was 1/4 of an inch, so that we have 1/8 of an inch this way, 1/8 of an inch that way, and that will help us place our fold lines. So if I turn back on the guides, Command colon, I can now drag these things so that they are just touching right here, and then we'll get some nice ones. So I'll place a couple of these and show you what I did. Okay, so I have two of these set here. I have to turn the guides off so you can see them. So there's one, and so that's for the fold that goes this way. Now I need to have them on the opposite, down here side, and but what we'll do is we'll set all four of them here, and then we'll see if we can't use that little trick with the reflect tool. So let's see. So to get these selected over here, I'll just hold down the Option key, drag this over, make a copy, hold down the Shift key, twirl that around like that, and then let's make another copy for this side. And I'm just being really careful twirling that around because I know there's like a little discrepancy of one point on the opposite end there. That's just strictly for aesthetics though. Okay, so let's place these, turn back on the guides, and then we're just going to get that as close as we can to that. Going to have to zoom in here. And then in the preferences, when I'm trying to do something real accurate like this, I'll go in and change the increments for the arrow keys, and then just use the arrow keys to fine tune this stuff. Again, the printer won't care whether this is exactly 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch away, but we want this stuff to look really good so that you can show off to a prospective employer that you know what you're doing here. Okay, so all four of these are placed here. We have one here. I'm going to select all four of them right now. Shift click, and shift click. And now what I can do, this will just save me a little bit of time and effort, is I'll just grab this, hold down the Shift key to constrain the proportions, hold down the Option key to make a copy of them. So I now have a copy of all of those, and then I'll go, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and then with the reflect tool, I'll just click, hold down the Shift key, and we'll flip these around to 90 degrees, and then we should be able to just drag this down to the bottom, holding down the Shift key to constrain proportions, and put it exactly in the right place. So holding down the Shift key, and you could even just do a Command G right now to group those so they all stay together. Turn back on your guides, Command colon, really zoom in there on one of them, and now with them grouped, if we place one, they should all place, and since we drag down with the Shift key, everything should be perfect left to right. It's just a matter of getting it aligned top to bottom. looks like that worked perfect there, there, yeah. So that worked. All right, so that saved us a little bit of time. And then we will have to do the same thing on this envelope over here, but you're probably getting the sense that if you would have just created one envelope first, then you could use the reflect and reflect the whole entire envelope and then just change out either the logo or the glue marks. Okay, so I use that same little trick of putting a quarter-inch stroke on here and place the fold marks over on this one. So now let's go back to this one, get rid of the stroke on it. So now everything's back to normal. Now let's take care of those other issues that we talked about. So anything that should not leave a white space, if it is removed, we need to go ahead and select those. So this is an example right here. This is going to be a foil stamp, but what we wouldn't want to happen is that if this is set normal and it turns off, there's a possibility that what could happen is all of a sudden you get this white left out here, and then the foil stamp would have to be perfect so that you wouldn't see any white around it. So definitely a bad scenario. So what we do to remedy that is select it, get out the attributes panel, and then just simply set overprint fill. And verify that that's done. Okay. So we now have all but one of the items that should not print set to overprint. So the die line, foil stamp, and this gum Arabic glue. Now this glue right here, you would actually technically want it to overprint, but we need to even be one step more careful than that. If we go to this glue and turn this off, we have ink underneath it. Not good for most glues. So we're going to take the extra precaution here, and we're going to get rid of the ink coverage underneath it. Easy way to do that will be to just punch these shapes out of here using the Pathfinder. So what I'll do is I'll make a copy of this. Okay, so here is the copy that I just made right here. So let me turn the other one off, and then I need the bleed, and then I'll shift click, and then we'll punch that out. Oh, I did the combined punch. Okay, there we go. So the second option on the Pathfinder, minus the front. So now when we turn the glue off, we see that we have no ink underneath it. Now let's get rid of what we do not need here. Okay, and let's make this the last step of this video, is to get rid of anything that should not print on here. So I have all my guides are on one layer here. I just do not want to cause any confusion with the printer, so I'm trashing that layer. Oh, and I must have made some guides on a different layer. So we'll just go up to, as well, we'll go to View Guides. I mean, the nature of guides is that they don't print anywhere anyway, so I don't really have to do this step, but getting rid of that extra layer, definitely. Any layers on here that have things on them that are not supposed to print, get rid of them. So fold lines, we definitely want those. The gum Arabic, the glue, no print. Let's see if there's anything got transferred to that layer. Yeah, it looks like that whole thing is there now. So there's nothing on the bleed layer, because as soon as I did that, the Pathfinder put them up there. So let's turn that, let's get rid of that layer, and then let's take the graphics that are on this layer and let's move them to the graphics layer. Oh, let me back up a step. It looks like I did. There was something on the bleed layer. This is still on here. Okay, so we need to take this, bring this to the graphics layer, and then we need to make sure that that gets sent to the back because it looks like I lost my L there. So I'm going to transform, or I'm sorry, arrange and then send to back. Okay, so that's perfect. So there should be nothing on that bleed layer now. So now I can get rid of that. And then over here on the graphics layer, we don't have all the graphics on there yet, so this needs to come over there. Okay, so everything that's on the graphics layer, which in our case is just the total ink coverage, the logo, um, and really usually when you go to print you just have one layer that says graphics and maybe one that says typography, but in this case this is outline text anyway, and then everything else on here has to do with the mechanicals except for the fold lines, but those are fine on their own separate layer. And all of the rest of this the printer would look at right away, hopefully, and notice that this stuff is not supposed to print, but otherwise when they go to set up their final file, they'll notice that there are two spot colors in there, and that would definitely let them know. And then one step further is if their machine turns one of these layers off, instead of getting a glaring white behind it, it will have ink coverage underneath it. And except in the case of the glue, that we definitely don't want ink behind. So I think that should cover just about everything.